Hello great people, my name is Dr. Roy and welcome to another exciting episode on Hot Mic, where we discuss topical issues and human angle stories, and of course we share actionable recommendations in addressing these issues. In this episode we shall be examining the issues of youth restiveness in Nigeria. What are the causes and the solution to this restiveness? To discuss this, I have in the studio with me Mr. Armsfree Ajanoku. He is the Executive Director, Grassroots Center for Right and Civic Orientation. Welcome to Hot Mic.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Mr. Armsfree, we are going to be looking at what is happening in the country right now. We have a lot of uprising among the youth. We have a lot of agitation going on among the youth. Lately, both on social media, offline, and all that, across the... In fact, recently one happened in Abuja, and I think one happened in Lagos as well. So what do you think are the causes of this youth restiveness in Nigeria right now?
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and if you want to take a holistic look at some of the trends we're seeing in terms of what I describe as a culmination of voices of young Nigerians who are trying to vent. So apparently what we are describing as youth restiveness is a major section, a major demographic of our country that has been excluded from governance, now finding an outlet. So whether that outlet is in social media, whether it's by protest on the street like we saw with the Take It Back protest recently, which were again brutally repressed, you are seeing a situation in which there's a discontent. There's a discontent among an important demographic. And this demographic is a historically marginalized demographic. This is a demographic that has been in the backwaters of the development process. And so they are now finding the tools of expression and they are now venting. And so that is what some analysts are describing as restiveness. But I describe it more as the culmination of the long ignored voices, which are now coming to the plate to say, we have needs, we have aspirations. As a demographic within the country, as a youth demographic, we have aspiration. As even women within the demographic of the larger Nigeria, we have aspirations. So it is the culmination of those voices that are agitating to be recognized, to be heard, that we can now say is the restiveness. And the restiveness is taking different forms. It's taking the form of people speaking on social media, like we're discussing earlier about a 30-day rant challenge.
Exactly.
And, people just voicing out their frustration about high cost of living, about insecurity, about the fact that even when they as youth have the willingness to be able to present themselves, to harness the opportunities in the country, they are being systematically, structurally, and deliberately denied these opportunities. And the whole process of venting goes on and on. And we must make no mistake about the fact that you must allow a child that has been flogged or beaten, you must not say that child cannot cry. So these cries of the Nigerian people are cries that are legitimate. They are cries that are grounded in the facts of their everyday existence, and we cannot wave it off and say they do not matter.
All right, so thanks for that. I love bringing development practitioner on my show. All right, me myself, I've been a development journalist all my life. All right, so being a development practitioner as an executive director of civil society organization, do you think there have been gap between what government promises the young people and what government is currently doing right now in the country?
Absolutely. There's not just a gap, there is a historical gap. In fact, it even goes beyond a gap. I would describe it as a chasm, because a chasm is even wider than a gap. The people on the one hand, have a certain set of aspirations and priorities. The people in government have a completely different set of priorities. And so the fact that there has been no bridge building process to harness the priorities of the long-suffering people and then get the leadership to meet with those priorities basically and largely contributes to the discontent that we're seeing all over the land. So in insecurity, there's a massive gap.
Exactly.
We can see the number of killings, we can see the number of kidnappings. In fact, the situation has degenerated so much that extrajudicial killing is now the name of the game in our communities.
Wow.
We can look at a cosmopolitan city like Abuja and say that all is well. But if you want to take a very good measurement of where that gap is, you have to go to our rural communities where people can no longer go to the farm on account of insecurity, where people, men and women, cannot even engage in the very basic occupation that they once used to go on with life. Now, there's a lot of pressure on even the few people who have, a gainful means of employment, because people from the village will tell you, we can't go to farms anymore.
Exactly.
Because the herdsmen have overrun our farms and all of that. So in insecurity, there's a gap. How about in cost of living? Everybody knows how the prices of commodities in the markets have been skyrocketing. In fact, I'll give you an example of ginger. A few years back, just 2 years ago, you could buy ginger worth of 200 naira, and it's in a bowl.
To be honest,
but today, ginger go to the average it has become gold. So I use ginger as a very good example of the quantity, the change in quantity. But when you look at even the basic foodstuffs that people survive on, is it gari? Is it the rice you're talking about? So it shows that in terms of the economy, there is a massive gap. The people who have access and the privilege to government office or government positions cannot be in a position to lecture us that things are not so bad and that Nigerians or the Nigerian youth that are talking and speaking up are complaining, because they are not in a position. They have access to huge resources. So where there is inflation, they have the means to defray the extra cost. But the people whose income have remained the same, how do they get by? How do they survive? And I have seen for the first time, Dotun, in Nigeria, I know Nigerians to be proud people. Nigerians are a people that they will ask you, are you feeding me?
Exactly.
They are proud people. The Nigerians generally don't come begging.
They love to be self-sufficient.
Yes, they love to be self-sufficient. But you are seeing it now. Even in a city like Abuja, you are on the road.
People are begging.
People are begging. People are asking you, just buy me the bread. Don't even give me the money. Just buy me the bread. In traffic stops, you have people saying, just if you can just park and buy me the bread, I'm okay, don't even give me money. So this is how bad it is. And when critics and civil society activists make these statements, there's a tendency for those in government not to take that step of listening, to say, how do we harvest this feedback? How do we harvest this data? Because the moment you fail to listen, the moment you want to talk back without hearing the pains of the people, you miss the point.
Exactly.
Because you do not get the required information to design the programs and policies that will be required to turn the tide. And make no mistake about it, we are not saying that the government will use a magic wand to solve the problem. We're not saying that overnight all of the problems will be solved. But if the government is conscientious enough, if the government is focused enough, has that milk of human kindness enough, it should be able to say, among our population, there are the poorest of the poor, the people who are more or less the wretched of the earth. How do we help them? What policies can we put in place to help them? And so gradually they can begin to turn the tide. But you see the current attitude in which the government just wants to talk back, or government spokespersons, they want to just talk back and then de-emphasize what the people are going through, it's a counterproductive approach. And that's why you see people seeking self-help, people seeking all kinds of self-help, because there is no listening point. There is no a point in which they feel that those who are governing them are getting their priorities towards the aspirations that the people and the things that the people are feeling. So this is the crushing contradiction of democratic governance in Nigeria as it stands.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Have you been following speaking of policies and programs? Are you aware that President Tinubu just approved what is called Nigeria Youth Academy, NIA, and there is also a program being introduced by being coordinated. I think the program was put under Nigerian Directorate of Employment to empower some youth who are jobless and all that. How do you think such programs and policies can turn the tide of what is happening to Nigeria? Do you think that can solve what is on ground?
Beautiful. I am not here to condemn the programs and policies of any government. And when we say government, don't forget, it's not just about the presidency. We have representatives in government from our ward, meaning your ward councillor, all the way to your House of Assembly at the state level, to your local government chairman, and to your state and all of that. You have a long chain of governance that leads all the way to Abuja. So Abuja is, of course, the primus inter pares, where you have the helm of governance, but it doesn't mean that all of governance rests there. So for every program that has been designed and is calibrated to meet with the aspirations of, even if it's 1,000 youths,
we do not need,
you cannot go out and say they are doing rubbish. No, we have to give support to those kinds of programs. But we have to also be giving support. It is not blind support, but it is intelligent support using the information we also have at the grassroots to support what the government is doing. And where those initiatives are not enough, we can always tell the government, this is how you can also scale up. If you do a program, for example, we do problem
at that particular level, even though I believe that it is a program that has multiple sides to it. The student loan program of the government, which has provided and
project management in the NGO sector. If you do a program, for example, and you see that the program has recorded impact, how do you scale up to make the program effective and efficient? Those are the kind of knowledge base that the government can access by working with civil society. But you see, where program implementation is driven by this attitude of we know it all, we know what to do.
Exactly.
We do not need the voices of civil society. We do not need the voices of the citizens to come in and critique us. Then you're not going to get the best result. You're just going to get programs that are just being implemented just to tick the boxes. But in terms of how those programs drive impact at the grassroots level, you will not have that kind of impact. Now, I'll take a signature program of this current government, which I would commend for solving a problem at that particular level, even though I believe that it is a program that has multiple sides to it. The student loan program of the government, which has provided, and there's verifiable data to show that these programs are providing opportunities for students to access loans and to be able to fund their education and all of that. Now the question is, how can such a program, looking at the grinding poverty in the land, how can such a program scale up in the direction of programs that would help those youths to reap the right benefits after school? Because you're not just talking about someone graduating then going to sit down in the job market for another 3 to 5 years being unproductive. You understand? How can the government also match the outcomes of the programs with the impact post-graduation and things like that? Those are very important conversations that the government itself can harness from civil society. But the overarching thing for me is that many of these government programs, apart from the fact that there is a lot of opaqueness, people don't have information about what the programs are. The programs do not have what I describe as, that level of fairness, or what I call distributive justice. There's something called distributive justice when you implement programs like this. And the essence of distributive justice is that the inequities that people face, the poverty that people face, you understand?
Yeah.
They are not on the same level. So, in as much as in terms of the government's developmental aspirations, we should be talking about equality, we should also be talking about equity. Equity in the sense that there's somebody who wants to benefit from that program now, who may not have the benefit of education. Maybe the person just finished primary school compared to maybe a university graduate who wants to benefit from maybe a government program in quotes. Equity means that you have to also be able to consider, because that person is also a human being. He has to feed. He has to have a means of livelihood. Because if you don't create that means of livelihood, you also find somewhere to use his energy. That is a negative thing that feeds back to the restiveness you're talking about.
Exactly.
So equality has to be matched with equity, and that equity is that based on our social disparities, the opportunities we have, we should be able to find a middle point. So there's nothing wrong, for example, if let's say Abuja, for example, and I want to use Abuja as an example, the Minister of FCT is implementing a youth empowerment program. There has to be a balance between urban and rural youth. There has to be gender balance, male, female.
Yeah.
There has to be balance between level of literacy, because our levels of literacy are not the same. And there are youths that maybe it's not their fault that they didn't go to school, but they wanted to. So those programs should take into consideration. So if you implement those programs with those kinds of metrics in mind, then you see that the people will begin to appreciate that, yes, a person with disability was able to access this program. He didn't know anybody to access the program. The people will believe that these programs have distributive justice, and these programs are actually legitimate. Not some kind of programs we see that is the senators that send names, is the House of Reps member that send names. It's only for those people who have access to the privilege. And one of the biggest problems we have in this country is this whole connection syndrome. You understand? And these are the things that are hobbling many of these programs. And for you to address that, what you simply need to do is to expand participation in the design of these programs. There's no reason why there are many coalitions of civil societies that represent a broad-based, even media. There's a need for media monitoring of those programs.
We do, but most times media people are being seen as prognoser, even when you are not invited. They have their own media people that they work with, who coin the story, who craft the story to their to favor their whatever they want to put out.
Yes.
So when they see media organization outside that coming to such event or trying to cover such event, there is this brick wall that they meet, that they don't allow that. So you see media face a lot of challenges too when we are trying to get people to know what's going on, in the area of transparency and accountability, and holding public government public officials and government accountable. So those are the challenges that we face I chip in because you mentioned media. Those are the challenges we face, because that's one of the reasons why we are even having this interview, because we need to also look at it from different lenses. Alright, we don't want to focus on our own strengths now, that okay, once you go out there we must always capture a story and do it and release. No, we need civil society organizations to, what are they doing, how are they viewing some of these challenges. Now, so far we have mentioned the cost of living as one of the causes of restiveness among the youth. We have mentioned insecurity, we have mentioned unemployment. So what are other things that you think could be the cause in the country right now, among the cause of youth restiveness in Nigeria right now?
All right.
What do you think? What in your
Yes,
from
in addition to these traditional courses,
okay,
because I describe all of those other courses as traditional
Traditional courses,
yeah,
yes.
traditional causative
Yes,
factors
exactly.
for the
youth restiveness and the agitation.
Yeah, the agitations we're
Yeah,
seeing.
yeah.
In addition to that, there are several other issues I describe as externalities to those traditional causative factors.
Okay.
Now, I would take an example of, the whole concept of how youth view the future of the country. There are many people that are employed, but they are agitated. There are many people, maybe their area is not facing insecurity. In terms of the perception as youth of what the country means to them.
Exactly.
That
patriotism.
What is the ethos of the country? Just like what
they felt let down
exactly
by the government that they voted into power.
Exactly.
The number of young people that came out during the election, we could see that vibrancy in them, that energy that they exact during the election, and at the end of the day, you don't get the commensurate responsiveness.
Absolutely. So that is not unemployment, that is not insecurity. In a
That's
way,
with psychological.
Yes, and that psychological, whatever it is a response to the culture of impunity in governance. That culture of impunity, whether you talk about electoral impunity, whether you talk about the financial malfeasance, you may be employed right now. But if you listen to what the government devotes to frivolities in this country,
you get those figures and you
understand?
You get scared.
So whether you are employed or not, you understand? Just mere hearing those figures is enough to destabilize you, and you become restive. So the restiveness you talk about is not just among the people who are unemployed. It's not just it's just a sense that the country is not moving in the right direction. The country is not moving in the right direction. There's this culture of impunity in governance where people who are supposed to be representatives of the people, who are supposed to encourage participatory governance, whereby the citizens participate, they tell you to your face, you can protest all you want, we'll be eating, we'll be squandering the wealth of the country. So whether you are on a job that is paying you $1 million, if you are somebody that has the interest of the country at heart, and you are looking at the future of the country, there is no way you would look at that and you are happy. You cannot wake up in the morning and watch on TV that 50 people are murdered.
No, that alone.
You understand? And then you just, many Nigerians, Nigerians like to say, oh, we are a cruise country and all of that. But beyond that cruise, many citizens are neck deep in depression by the realities of our country. Yes, we may try to, in Nigeria, we like to turn a lot of things to joke, laugh about it and all of that. But our everyday reality gets to us in those sober moments of reflection. And people find that as a reason to also voice out, to also get their voices heard. And so this is also a contributory factor to the impunity. And then there's one more I would like to add, which is the fact that I feel in this country, and the data suggests, you see what's happening with our young people, our youth these days. Our youth have tended to be on their own. They formulate their own, many of them, not everyone. There are still very strong families that try to use those family values to put their younger ones in the right path. You see what is happening with money ritual. You see today that young people can come out on social media and say, I've joined all kinds of fraternities, just in pursuit of money. The whole ethos and the whole thing about, you can work hard, you can wait, you can be patient, you can be an entrepreneur, you can push for the values of integrity, transparency. Not many of our youth want to hear those stories anymore. And so you have a situation in which you read news of young people that would go and use their friend in quotes for money rituals and things like that. So our country is like a place right now that it doesn't have a moral compass. That level of orientation, collective group orientation, that we can say, this is what we stand for as Nigerians. This is the direction our country is going. We are optimistic. We are going to get behind our leaders. Currently, we cannot get behind our leaders because our leaders don't have the legitimacy. They have not earned the legitimacy. Our leaders are like a parent that has, gotten money, has gone to the bar, gone to the pepper soup joint, feed himself fat while the children are hungry. The children of Nigeria, they are crying.
Exactly.
We are hungry. We don't have jobs. We want to work in our prime. In fact, someone made an analysis recently that Nigeria is a place where there is a generation of young people who will never have worked in their prime because of the massive problem of unemployment. So, in essence, it's a connectivity of several of these factors that is responsible, and it all goes back to that whole reality that our country is not in the right place. Anybody who tells you that Nigeria is in the right place, I can see once in a while the government will bandy one figure. Fitch has said our economy is stable. Those are not the issues. Yes, good that economy is getting towards stability, but the question is the well-being of your citizen, the hope of your citizen. Can the citizen see you as a leader, as a governor, as a local government chairman, that you represent our interest, you are sacrificing for the collective good? Can the citizen see that in you? The moment the citizens cannot see that, you might build as many bridges as you want. The citizens.
You're right. All right. So thank you so much. So in one word, what would you recommend in tackling this restiveness? Just one word.
One word. Maybe one phrase. Not
just one phrase. Yeah. Just anything you can say to challenge the government in tackling it.
I think what we need is participatory governance.
Okay.
Participatory governance. And if you allow me to explain the one phrase.
No, don't worry. Don't worry. Thank you. They understand. Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Hamspi Ajanaku, for honoring our invitation on Hot Mic this week. All right. This is where we wrap it up on Hot Mic episode. And I remain your host. My name is Dr. Roy. Till I come your way again, thank you for staying with us.